All right, guys, welcome back to Pragmatic Bodybuilding. So what I want to talk about today is my back training. Now, I know the back can be very complex. Like there's a lot going on back there. And the old saying, bodybuilding shows are won from the back. It's really impressive when you have a really nice rear double bicep shot, a really good lat spread, and of course, everything ties in on the posterior chain. So you have nice glutes to complement as well as some hamstrings. To me, anyways, it can be the most impressive poses on the bodybuilding stage just because there's so much detail, a lot going on there. It seems like we would need to be a little more complicated with our back training because of that. But for me personally, I like to keep things really straightforward, really simple. I just look at back training as a horizontal rowing pattern and a vertical pulling pattern. As far as like the different variations of that, as long as I'm able to really connect on a movement, I have good form, I can get a lot out of those two patterns. And for my horizontal rowing, the way I look at it is if I'm pulling more in the mid-belly, lower chest range, then I know I'm going to get a lot of the upper back muscles touched, even the rear delts come into play. So I'm covering a lot of ground by executing my movements in that fashion. And in the vertical patterns, I'm going to really get a lot out of my lats, a little bit of rear delts as well. Just those two patterns, I'm covering a lot of ground. My focus is better that way. There's more intention, put more energy into it. I can get a lot more out of myself. As far as selecting loads, I really try to keep things very humble. If you're new to training or just a couple of years into it and you feel like you're not really getting a good connection on your back, then what I recommend is one, use straps or Versa grips, because oftentimes your grip is what's holding you back. Instead of moving the loads with a lot of security, you're losing your grip, your focus is more on that grip. The targeted musculature really isn't getting the benefit. So by strapping up, using Versa grips, and I don't look at that as like an ego thing. Like some people say, oh, if you use straps, you use Versa grips, you're being weak. You shouldn't be lifting the load. You're lifting if you have to use straps. But my thing is I want to use as heavy of a load as I can to get as much mechanical tension on that targeted muscle. And if using straps or Versa grips helps me do that, then that's a good tool for me to use. To really ensure you're using the proper load, you can incorporate pauses. Eccentric portion or the finishing portion of a rep, you would pause 1 to 2 seconds. And then with the concentric, you pull the weight in, get it to the end position, and then pause it for another 1 to 2 seconds. And then you just rinse and repeat that until you get to the appropriate proximity to failure to ensure you are, in fact, and you're getting a good stimulus. But using these pauses, it'll really help you to get more connection with your back. And it's going to teach you to go from A to B in a standardized way. And when you get proficient with that, and when you feel really confident in moving from A to B really well and the ability to progress, then you can always lessen the pauses. You can remove them. That's where I'm at now. Obviously, I've been training for a very long time. So I'm very proficient with my back movements now. So I don't really need to incorporate longer pauses. So maybe some very subtle ones from time to time. Sometimes I use the pauses as an audit just to ensure my form is where I really need it to be. Now, as far as the advanced techniques that we see out there, hitting certain angles, using a lot of unilateral work, that's all good and effective ways to complement your back training. See, for me personally, it takes a little more time to do unilateral work, and I don't have extra time to be in the gym. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and time with the family is really important for me. Obviously, it's important for my family that they get more of my time. So I'm just not the biggest fan of unilateral work at the moment. The only unilateral work I do is for my calf training, and that's simply because I don't want to load my spine too much. So I do single-legged dumbbell calf raises. But unilateral work does have its pros. In a sense, you have a harder time connecting with your back. Again, using the pauses can help, but also doing unilateral work, you can actually maybe put more focus into one side only, and you might connect better that way. You might get more out of yourself that way, and if you have the time to do it, then there's nothing wrong with incorporating. Now, as far as progressions go, oftentimes with unilateral work, we'll try to have both sides match each other. For example, the left side, you get, let's say 10 reps. the right side, you only get 8 reps. So you're trying to even that out, and you may think like, okay, I need to do more volume on the right side so the strength level goes up and matches the left. The way I see it is if you look at each side independently, so for example, 10 on the left, next week try to hit 11, 8 on the right, okay, let me try to get 9 on the right. I think that's mentally a lot easier to deal with. 9 times out of 10, visually, you're not going to see too much differences from side to side. And of course, naturally, all of us have asymmetries side to side. No one really notices it but ourselves, because as bodybuilders, we can be our harshest critic. Yeah, it's just mentally for me, it's always been easier not to try to match side to side, but to just treat each side independently. So again, just, over the years, comes to the back training, I think the biggest mistakes I've made early on was relying on, let's say, free weight bent over rows, and the ego getting the best of me. If there's too much loading, then the leverages are going to shift. So instead of being a little bit more bent over, having a proper form tends to look more like an upright row. Of course, when the load is too heavy, you're going to rely on leg drive, hip drive. The momentum is helping to move the weight. So through the years, I've gravitated more towards chest supported rowing. Currently, I'm working with dumbbell supported rows, especially at this later stage of my career where I'm, of course, getting older. There's a lot more training miles on my body. So if I can eliminate outside energy, like I eliminate the legs, the hip drive, I could put more energy into the actual back movement. And also the rest of my programming is efficient as well. Doing those bent over rows does take a little bit out of your legs. It takes some out of your lower back. And across the week, if you're doing bent over rows, some type of squatting pattern, maybe a hinging pattern, a deadlift, an RDL, maybe even an overhead press where your lower back is supporting you. You could be working your lower back quite a bit, throughout the week. So for me personally, just removing the legs, the lower back, the hip drive, it's really enhanced some of my other training days. So I just try to be as efficient as I possibly can and try to make things more straightforward, not as complicated. And my focus, my attention really just gets heightened. It's really helped me to, in a sense, develop my back. But this same principle, same approach has also helped the rest of my physique. So hopefully this helps you guys. I'm going to be off on vacation this coming week, so I probably won't get a video out for you guys next week. I'll return the following week though. If you guys have any suggestions for any future videos, drop that in the comment below. I'm going to take a look at it. If there's some good ideas there, then I'll run with it, get it out for you guys. But have a great week, stay safe, and hopefully you guys build a really good back, and we'll talk more in 2 weeks.